Hi, everyone. Welcome into another episode of Off Air with Casey and Kristen. It is race week in Bristol. We are
It's
going
Bristol,
to
baby.
touch on some NASCAR related topics briefly, just some history, some stories we have. But first, I want to touch on something that really cool happened last Friday at Honeacre that you were involved with.
Oh, my goodness. Yes.
It ended up being fantastic, maybe a little nerve wracking earlier in the day, but just kind of walk us through what happened on your journey to Honeacre High School for the site of Friday Night Rivals. You were filling in for Dave once again on the tailgate part of it.
Yes. Dave had some family things he needed to take care of and got the call that morning. But see, I had worked a day shift because I was going to do a couple stories. So I did do the stories. But they said, okay, you're going to have to go to Honeacre, which I was happy to do. Love the people in Honeacre. Great area. But there was also a little bit of a lack of communication, us being in the communications business. But see, when we do a Friday night tailgate, there's obviously a lot involved with those tailgates. So we bring a lot of items like the tablecloths that you see and the tent, and all of that takes some preparation and just, you've got to put all that stuff up and make it look nice. And same with the Rivals games. Like, you guys have to, the production crews out there, and they're doing a lot of stuff too in order to get ready for the game. So anywho, got all this stuff together, and we get to Lebanon. We get past Lebanon. We're like about to turn to go to Honeacre, and Troy, my videographer, looks at me and goes, "Did you get the grill?" No, I did not. So we left the Blackstone Grill in the Storm Tracker, which we usually take to every single game.
Usually.
But
not
this week,
No.
because this week the Storm Tracker went to Johnson City for the ETSU football game because it had to be in place a day ahead.
Yeah.
So the Blackstone Grill, that is Food Cities and that Kurtz's Hardware sponsored for the segment, was in Johnson City, and we were in Honeacre.
And there was another reason, even another layer on that, because Lisa Johnson from Food City, who typically does the tailgating portion of it for representing Food City, she had been to the first 3 games we did, but 2 weeks ago at Virginia High, she said, I'm not going to be there next week at Honeacre. So instead of her taking the grill back, she's like, I'm going to just leave it with you all. She gave it to Troy or Ethan. They put it in the Storm Track vehicle thinking, well, we'll have it there for next week, which at the time was going to happen.
Yes.
But things had changed, and no one realized that the grill was still in the tracker, and it was sitting in Johnson City when we needed it, like you said, about 2 hours away in Honeacre.
Yes. And in fairness for me, I did not know that the grill had gone into the Storm Tracker in the back of the Storm Tracker. Because when I was at Virginia High, I was packing up other things and talking to people and had no idea. But it was right when we turned. We probably were 10 minutes from the elementary school when we realized we didn't have a grill. And
that was important because chicken was on the menu to cook.
Was raw
chicken
was on the menu for us to cook live on TV.
So how did you get the chicken cooked without a grill once you got to Honeacre?
Well, I thought of multiple things. I honestly thought about pulling over to some people's homes and asking if they had a grill that I could borrow. I went to the Dollar General in Honeacre to see if they had a grill that I could buy, but they did not. And I called the hardware store in town to see if they carried grills, but apparently they do not keep them in stock. So when that ran out, the nice people there at Fuller Field started talking to some of them, and they said, hey, if worse comes to worse, we have a grill in the concession stand and you're welcome to use it. So I actually have some video of Kevin Stafford with Food City, who was filling in for Lisa, and he's in the concession stand, in the Honeacre concession stand, grilling our chicken and vegetables for the live hits. And we were a little nervous about it too, because, chicken breast is pretty thick. So you want to make sure that that's cooked all the way through too. But it actually turned out, you ate
Yeah,
some.
we both ate it. It was fantastic. It was great. It was just such a great story. You and Kevin took a picture with the 2 ladies that helped the most. And you showed that on the news, I think in video even too. And we showed a picture during the game we show that this is what happened earlier today, thanking the people in Honaker for stepping up. And we expect nothing less from the hospitality in Southwest Virginia, but it's really cool to see a problem and then it turned into successful and how it happened. And then Food City, Kevin Stafford actually gave them a gift card thanking them for what they did. So, I mean, it was just tremendous. All aspects of everybody coming together to pull that off.
Absolutely. And really shout out to the people in Honaker for just being so nice to us and so welcoming, because I mean, that was just so nice of them to do that for us, because they didn't have to do that. And they did that, not expecting anything, of course, and just, with kind hearts. So thank you all. You guys are the best.
Yeah. So that was an eventful pregame, but I wanted to share that because it was maybe not as funny at the time, but once it got pulled off, then everyone was laughing. Okay, it turned into a really great story. Because otherwise, if we would have held up some raw chicken, you would have said, like, here it is. We're not going to eat it, but that's what it would have.
I was like, what is going to happen? I was like, Steve Smith's going to watch and cut me, cut me from the
Send
segment
you
forever.
Off the air.
Yeah, I mean, it could happen, I was like, oh no, but it all worked out.
Yes.
So, and it was great. It was delicious.
It was. So that was Friday before the game. And then unfortunately for Honaker, they lost that game to Rye Cove that night. But what they did before the game was awesome. So big shout out to all the people at Honaker for that. And then, as you mentioned, the reason the Storm Tracker was not at the game is because it was parked in Johnson City at ETSU.
Yes.
Because we did a little tailgate event at ETSU on Saturday prior to the big game between ETSU and North Dakota State.
How did that go? I didn't go.
Yes, you weren't able to make it out, but it was good. We were right beside Food City. Some of their employees, Molly Austin, some other people from Food City, they have a tailgate weekly that that they kind of do just themselves. It's not for like everybody. Like they have things for themselves. And Bank of Tennessee was on the other side of us, and there was some cornhole going back and forth. So it was good. Got to meet some people and see the buck walk. Because we got there 4.5 hours before the game started to set up, and it was so windy. That was something else. We had the tracker out there, and then the tent that we use on Friday Night Rivals, that had to be broken down Friday. And I told our crew, I'm like, that tent has to get into the news card that I took to Honaker because we need that on Saturday, and we were going to have to set that up. So I made sure and told Leonard and Hutch, who were out in the crew, and they put it in there. But I'd also told Leonard we need the sandbags to help stabilize the tent. The sandbags did not make it into the car.
Oh, no.
I realized that before we left the station on Saturday morning. I'm like, okay, well, I know the sandbags are in our big satellite truck that we take to the games, which is normally parked in our garage, and I could access it because it's inside our garage. However, it was Rhythm and Roots. So the roads were closed off, so they could not get the satellite truck back into our garage. So they had to park behind the police station, and the keys were with our driver, who was not here on Saturday, and in an office who was locked for the weekend. So I had no access to get the sandbags. So I was like, okay, well, that was just kind of a precaution. But of course, on Saturday, it was very windy at ETSU. So it was me, it was Lauren Bradford and Ethan, who produces this podcast, also a digital specialist for us. The three of us were the ones out there setting up the tent. One of the three of us had to be holding on to a part of that tent for 2.5 hours because it was we had makeshift. We put a camera bag up against one post. Someone gave us a tie on to put around Lauren's backpack on another leg just to try and stabilize it. And we weren't the only ones. Other people's tents had to hold on to because it was very windy on Saturday. So that was that was another thing of things you don't think about. But we thought about it, just forgot to bring those sandbags, and we really needed them on Saturday.
See, everyone thinks that we just, produce these, everything is just magic.
Yeah.
But sometimes there are things that go wrong.
Yes.
But hey, you rolled with the punches.
We did.
Yeah.
You
probably got like really strong.
I did. I was holding up, and I'm tall anyway,
now.
so I was really pretty high to the top of the tent anyway. So I felt like I was like standing like on a bus or something. We're going to stand up holding on up above you. That's probably like I was doing throughout that afternoon. And then we went to the actual game, and full disclosure, my plan was go to the game because I wanted to see North Dakota State, number 2 team in the country. They're like the Alabama of the FCS, and figured, all right, I'll stay till halftime, and ETSU will probably be down a couple touchdowns. Then I'll get out. And North Dakota State went right down the field and scored like that. And I was like, oh, that's kind of what we expected. But then ETSU comes back and scores. And I'm like, okay, well, Bucks answered. Then North Dakota State goes right down and scores again.
So you were glued in.
And we're like, okay, well, now this is going to be, can anybody stop the other one? Because then ETSU went down and scored again. It was like 14-14, boom, boom. And well, this is interesting. So halftime, well, I'm staying now because this game could be a big time upset. ETSU was up by 12 with like 2.5 minutes left. And they needed to make one more play and they couldn't do it. And North Dakota State just kept clawing back. They got a couple of lucky bounces. They made some opportunities, made some big plays, recovered an onside kick, and they scored 15 points in the last 2 minutes of the game and just left. It was a record crowd, 11,040, a record crowd at Green Stadium.
Wow.
Left everybody stunned at the comeback. And really the day after the game, someone had mentioned to me what North Dakota State did to ETSU was what ETSU did to Kennesaw State in their one playoff game that they've had since they've come back. And that was in 2021. ETSU was very similar. They were down by 2 touchdowns with like 2 minutes to go, came back and won the game against Kennesaw State. And Trey Lamb, the coach for ETSU, said after the North Dakota State game, he's like, I don't feel like we lost the game. There were just a bunch of kind of bad luck that went against us. Like he's like, I would do the same things we did again. It just did not work out for us. But he's like, that's, you let a team like that hang around and stuff can happen. And I feel like ETSU was the better team on Saturday. They should have won the game, but that's what's great about sports. That doesn't happen that way. But just like a couple years ago, ETSU probably should have lost that game to Kennesaw State in the playoff game. They were lucky to win. Everything had to go their way, and it did. Unfortunately, almost 3 years later, ETSU was on the other side of that, but it wasn't a playoff game, regular season. But still, the Bucks come up short against North Dakota State in a fantastic atmosphere, and what a scene that was. Just a bummer ending.
Yeah, but awesome that you got to go and experience it.
Yeah, that was the first ETSU game I had been at, I think, in 2 years. I don't think I was at a game last year. Obviously, not in sports full time anymore, so I don't, cover the games anymore. But I believe, my last season covering them when I was in sports was the 21 season when with Randy Sanders, they went to the playoff. Heather Williams and we went to North Dakota State because that's who ETSU played in their quarterfinal playoff game. And then, I think maybe the next year I might have went to one game, but so it was cool to see there for an entire game. And, I thought I was going to see fans rush the field because I think they were going to be ready. The students were going to do that. And the Bucks just came up one play short.
But they can be proud.
They can.
Mean, that was pretty awesome.
It wasn't a conference game. They still got their entire Southern Conference season ahead of them. So if you haven't made it out to an ETSU game in a while, they look a lot different than they have the last couple of years. I definitely want to check it out. I think they got 4 home games left when Southern Conference play begins. So but that was it was a fun day on Saturday.
Awesome. Well, I know you were busy on Saturday, so you didn't head out to Rhythm and Roots at all.
I was not at Rhythm and Roots at all this weekend. Friday, we were at Honeacre. I got back to the station after midnight on Friday night. And then Saturday, I got back here about 10 o'clock. So I was not. And then Sunday, did not come downtown. Also, no, I was not at Rhythm and Roots at all over the 3 days. I missed it, but it was during the fall. Also, there's a lot of football going on as well.
Yeah. For sure.
And did you make it over there? Did you?
I did not. Unfortunately, this is the first year in a long time that I haven't made it to Rhythm and Roots. I was really sad about it because it's like my favorite thing in downtown Bristol. However, my husband worked Rhythm and Roots, so where he worked, I just stayed home with Riley, which was great too. But I did get my island noodles. Shout out to my husband for bringing me island noodles.
What a guy.
So, yes, he did bring me some island noodles. So, I was happy. At least I got to have that. But I didn't get to see any music, so I'm a little sad.
Yeah, and then you were going to be down there for a little bit on Friday originally in the original schedule before
the Honeacre.
Yes. Yeah.
That was originally what I was going to cover. Is I was going to go to Rhythm and Roots,
get your island noodles,
get my island noodles, do a couple live shots from downtown, which is what I normally do. Talk to some of the business owners down there and just have some fun. But just because the way the schedule worked this time, I didn't get to check it out. But I am happy about those island noodles, and I hope everyone who wanted to get the island noodles got to. It didn't seem like they sold out this year, so I think they came prepared this year for like a lot.
And I know you weren't the only one in the building that had island noodles.
Absolutely not. Yeah. I know I heard a lot of people treated themselves as well.
I did not though. Never had them.
Oh,
All right, now it's race week in Bristol, and I know you have
Woohoo.
talked in the past. I mean, obviously we know each other a long time, but you and your family, you grew up going to NASCAR races. I mean, that was something
Yes.
I never did growing up in the North. It was not that big in Pittsburgh where I grew up, but so do you have a fun story, a favorite story, a memory from when you were younger going to NASCAR races with your family?
I have a lot, but
Okay.
what I think is so funny, and this is just how the world has changed over the years. So, my parents always liked to like rent little campers, and when I say camper, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking this like giant thing with like bed. No, like we were on a budget here. Okay, so like
Not the RVs the drivers have.
no, this
Yeah.
is like a tiny little one that you like tote behind, your vehicle. And there was one called the Mi Casita, I'm pretty sure, that we like rented one time. And it was like so tiny. And for 4 people, it was crazy. But anyway, so this time, I remember one memory I have of going to the races is I'm trying to think of which racetrack it was. It might have been, I think it was Rockingham. But we had gone to the race, and what my parents would do is we didn't afford for all of us to go to the big race,
Okay.
right? So they would go to the big race and leave us in the campground with $20, okay, each. Each of us got $20, and like we would just roll around the campgrounds and get like snow cones and like funnel cakes and like
You and your
watch
brother.
TV, me and my brother. But we were young, and it just cracks me up to think about that, because if you did that today, like that would be a absolutely no,
Yeah.
not doing that. Now my brother was like pretty responsible. I mean, we were
Mhm.
pretty young, but still, like it's just crazy to
Yeah.
me that like you couldn't do that now. You couldn't leave your kids, I don't feel like, in
And
a
we're
camper.
talking
And-
what, late 90s, early 2000s?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we did that. So it's just crazy how the the world has changed. But we would all go to the race on like Friday as a family, and then they would go to the Saturday race or the Sunday race. We go all together on Saturday, and then Sunday they would go to whatever it was, the Winston or
It's changed a lot. Yes.
right,
the Cup
whatever,
Series. The
Cup
Series.
Series they would go to. So, but yeah, just crazy. And I was I was content to be in the campground though, with the snow cone and just watching TV.
And you guys went to several different tracks, right? Did you ever come to Bristol to watch a race?
No, we never went to Bristol, but my parents have always wanted to come to Bristol, but you couldn't come to Bristol back in the day because you had to get on a wait list. So when I like moved up here, my parents were very knowledgeable about Bristol just because of the Bristol Motor Speedway. And they still haven't come to a race, but for how many years that I've lived here now, I'm like, I need to get them up here. But, my parents both recently retired. So now
sounds like it'd be in the future plans.
Absolutely. Yeah. My mom is a teacher in Georgia. She's like a substitute right now, though. She's just doing it for fun. But she took like a long-term sub position just to stay busy. So and
typically, I mean, since I've been here, the night race used to be in August and, March, and then it was like April, now it's September. But I mean, so it's the school years are going on typically during the 2 races here in Bristol. So well, that's awesome. Yeah. I knew I was curious to see if you had a favorite story. And then, like I said, I grew up, NASCAR was not on the radar in any capacity in Pittsburgh.
Never watched it.
No, never watched it. But then when I came and started working here, I started working here in late July of 2010. It was like 3 weeks before the night race. So that was like learning a new station, like how everything works here. And then I go, by the way, like our biggest event of the year is in 3 weeks. And I remember going to that race. That was my first NASCAR race ever. It had been the 2010 race week. I was at all of them, the trucks, Xfinity, Cup, and I believe that's Kyle Busch swept that weekend. I believe in 2010 he won all 3: the truck, the Xfinity, and the Cup races. And yeah, it was awesome. And my favorite memory from Bristol is, I think it was the year after that, in 2011. We used to do like a trackside show where it's Bristol, baby. We did it. It was in the spring race. And so they would do like the Xfinity would run on Saturday afternoon in the spring. The Cup would be on Sunday afternoon. So like on Saturday evening, we did our race show live at like 7:00 at night. So the race has been over for a couple hours, and we were inside the drivers where their campers are, where they stay. And we had an interview set up with some driver. I don't even remember who it was. It was not a well-known driver, because typically local television, we're not going to get, the Jimmy Johnsons, back in the day, Jeff Gordons are going to come out and do interviews with the local stations.
Right.
So the people at BMS had set us up with an interview with someone. Again, I can't even remember who it was, but they said, just go out there and they know it. They'll meet you out there at the camp yard and you'll be good to go. So it was me, a photographer, and then an intern we had at the time. And we're roaming around, and we're where we're supposed to be. We're waiting. And then across the way, a door opens up out of a RV, and it was Carl Edwards. And he gets on top of his RV. He was doing something with the satellite dish on his thing. Doesn't say anything to us. We don't say anything to him. We just see him. He goes up there, fools around with something. He comes back down. We kind of like wave, and he waved back over, didn't say anything. He went back in. And then a couple minutes later, he comes back out. He's like, "Can I help you guys with anything?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm with the local TV station here in Bristol, and we're waiting to interview whoever it was." He said, "Well, what station are you with?" I was like, "At WCYB." He's like, "Oh, like WCYB is like, that's the station my mom watches when she comes in here for the races. Like, she knew that station." And I'm like, "Oh, cool." And I was like, "Yeah, we're waiting to interview so and so." And he's like, "Okay." He's like, "Well, do you guys need anything?" I'm like, "Would you like to do an interview?" And he's like, "When?" I'm like, 10 minutes. And he's like, "Okay, just come knock on my door." So it's like, great. I'm like,
wow.
So whoever we were supposed to interview again, that person no-showed on us. I don't even remember who it was, but they never came.
Wow.
But we got Carl Edwards to take his spot. So knock on the
he's
door.
A Channel 5 viewer.
Well, his mom was. I don't think he was. He said his mom. He just knew the letters, WCYB, but he was not scheduled to do it. He did not have to do it. He came out, did the interview with us, could not have been nicer. And I was a Carl Edwards fan from that day forward until he retired.
It is so awesome.
Yes.
I love that story. That's cool.
Yeah.
Huh.
And that was in 2011. So, that was over 10 years ago. And that's still my favorite interaction with a driver who went above and beyond, similar to what we talked about, the Honeacre people going above and beyond. Carl Edwards did the same thing.
That is really neat. I love it. And especially when you've, I'm sure you've met a number of drivers over the years, and it's
more often than not, they're not that nice. I could tell a lot of stories. I'm not trying to put anybody on, throw them shade or put them on blast. Ooh. There are plenty of driver stories that were not very good, but we'll save that for another episode of Off the Air when we go back down. But no, this one I'm going to say positive. And there's been others besides Carl Edwards that had great experiences with. Chase Elliott was one. Casey Kane's was fantastic back in the day when he was racing. Those are some guys that come to mind. Casey Kane?
Yeah. I pulled for him. See, my parents really like my mom always liked Bill Elliott.
Oh, yeah.
So
awesome. Bill from Dawsonville.
Yeah, I would kind of roll with that. My brother was a Dale Earnhardt fan, senior.
Yeah.
Loved him. And then my dad just always liked to pull for people, that kind of stirred the pot a little. So he was always
instigators.
Yes. So he pulled for Jeff Gordon a lot of times just to stir the pot a little. So miss all those guys.
Yes, it is amazing how it's turned over. And who's now it's like Denny Hamlin is like kind of one of the old guards.
I know,
Martin Truex Jr. is getting ready to retire and step up from full-time racing. So it really has, there's guys, some of these kids are in their early 20s that are the new rising stars of NASCAR. But yeah, it's exciting. Of course, you got the races Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Weather looks great. Dave said maybe Thursday, a small chance, but look, and I think Saturday is supposed to be like in the low to mid 80s. I mean, it's going to be, pretty good. So I think weather's going to be great. A nice crowd. It's an elimination race in the Cup for the playoffs. Mm-hmm. So there's 16 drivers in the playoffs. 4 of them are going to get eliminated after this Bristol race. So
and we're going to be out there.
We will both be there. We're going to go out on Thursday evening for a little bit in between our work schedule.
Yep.
Because it is employee night for WCYB. We have a suite, and Thursday is employee night. So we're going to go out there, check out a little bit of racing of the truck race and get some dinner out there. And then we will go back out on Saturday for the Cup race on Saturday night.
Yes, I'm really excited about it. It's always one of my favorite things that we do as a station too, because we we have a station kind of night and all get to go together. So I think that's really fun.
Yeah, I think so. I think the 3 days, Friday night is the only night we will not be out at the track on Friday, but we will be there on Thursday and Saturday as well. So we touched on the NASCAR. Let's circle back. It's time to check some receipts on off air.
Not too good
Our
for Kristen
college.
this week.
We'll start college football picks. Last week, Kristen said Georgia was going to beat Kentucky by more than 22 points.
I know, and that was not
You were
case
biting your
at
nails.
all.
Were you watching that game Saturday night?
I watched every second of it, and let me tell you, I am just glad that they won. That's all.
You'll take the L on
I
the
will
bet.
take the loss,
But they won the game.
because they won the game.
Yes.
But I don't know that they should have necessarily. I mean, oh my goodness, that was just horrid to watch.
So her team wins, but she does lose the bet. So that drops Kristen to 2-1 on the season in college bets. I took Boston College plus 16.5 against Missouri, and Missouri won the game, but only by 6. So I got the win on that one. So I am also 2-1. So we're both 2-1 on our college picks. Who do you got this week for your college game?
For college, I'm Tennessee and Oklahoma.
That is college game day this week in Norman, Oklahoma. And here's the thing. This is the second year in a row Tennessee is playing the exact same time as the night race. Last year, you remember, they played Florida, and everyone was watching the race, watching the game, watching the race. And now this year, Tennessee, Oklahoma, 7:30 Saturday night. What time's the race start? 7:30
so
Saturday
it's
night.
Be on.
It's going to be on, yes.
For sure.
All right, so who are you going?
Tennessee -7.
All right. Kristen says Tennessee wins by a touchdown or more in Norman, Oklahoma. I'm going to a noon game so I can put my full attention on this game before I leave for the racetrack. James Madison, our old co-worker, our old friend, Jarvis Heron, used to work here. He is in Harrisonburg, covers James Madison, everything James Madison. They are playing at North Carolina. James Madison is a 10.5-point underdog. I think the Dukes keep it closer than that, maybe even have a chance to win the game outright, but they just have to lose by 10 or less for me to win that bet. That's my college.
All right.
NFL talk.
Okay, so
winners last week. We both won last week.
We did. Yay! That's a good point for me. I'm happy about that. But my team, the Falcons, got another nail biter. Did you watch the game?
Yes, yes.
My
they got, frankly, a little lucky to win last night with Saquon Barkley dropping that pass on third down for the. But you took Atlanta. They were a 5.5-point underdog. Not only did they cover, they won the game outright. So Kristen is now 1-1 in their NFL picks, and I took the Minnesota Vikings on Sunday. They were a 6-point underdog at home against the 49ers. They won the game outright. So we both of our underdogs won outright. So I'm 2-0 in the NFL. Kristen's 1-1. My NFL pick, I was kind of torn between two games. I'm going to go with the Baltimore Ravens at the Dallas Cowboys. Baltimore's 0-2. They are a 1-point favorite in Dallas. Cowboys got crushed last weekend by the Saints. That game was over at halftime.
Yep.
But Baltimore 0-2. I'm going to take the Ravens -1 point to beat the Dallas Cowboys in Dallas.
All righty. And I'm going to take the Seahawks and the Dolphins.
Oh.
So I'm going to do Seahawks, Dolphins.
All righty.
-4.5.
Seattle, of course, Tua, unfortunately, concussion again last week.
Yeah,
and
scary stuff.
Yeah,
and he will not be playing.
He will not. But my wife, Kelly, grew up in South Florida. She's a big Dolphins fan. So she's not happy with that news that Tua is going to be out for at least the next 4 games. But yeah, the Dolphins are going to move on without Tua playing at Seattle. So Kristen's got the Seahawks, and I have the Baltimore Ravens.
All right. Well, we'll see how it goes this week. I'm not doing too bad, though. I'm proud of myself.
And
I'm doing this.
The reason this would be the first week you're not picking an Atlanta Falcons game because they are playing the Kansas City Chiefs.
And I can't do it. I can't do that.
Here's the question, though. The first 2 games Kansas City played was at home.
Right.
Taylor Swift was at both. Mm-hmm. This week is their first road game in Atlanta. Does Taylor Swift show up into your adopted NFL city of Atlanta on Sunday? This is the Sunday night game on right here on NBC Channel 5. We're going to have this game Sunday night. Will Taylor be in Atlanta?
I guess I mean, I don't know.
Is she still on break?
I think that she will go to as many games as possible just because Travis, I feel like, went to as many.
When does she start up her
performances.
tour again?
I should know that. I
You
know
should.
that there's.
As a Swiftie, you should know that.
Oh, I think she might have concerts in October.
Okay.
She definitely doesn't have any in September.
Okay.
I think October is the soonest.
I remember when the schedule came out.
Ooh, but she does have some in Canada.
She has a concert in Ontario,
yes.
I believe, when the Chiefs are playing in Buffalo.
Oh,
and
so
people were speculating. I don't know if that's either in October or November, but people were speculating that was not an accident, that the NFL put the Chiefs in Buffalo right when Taylor was going to be performing right on the other side of the waterways there in Canada.
Okay, so her next one, I just looked it up, is October 18th. So
she would have no reason concert-wise to not be able to go to Atlanta if she wanted to.
No, I don't think so. So she might be there. I mean, she's got her own plane. She can just.
So we're like, that's a month then. I mean, you said October 18th her next show. So she's got about a month before she's going to get back on the horse, so to speak.
Yep. And then she's just got a few more concerts left, and then she'll be done with the Eras tour.
Okay.
It will be the end of the Eras tour.
An end of an era tour. Okay. Anything else? Any grievances you want to air this week? I know you were kind of mad at me earlier before we started this podcast. Anything you want to get out there to everyone else?
You're going to throw it out there. Okay. I just thought it would be a fun segment to do if I brought a little snack for us to try. You know, I'm always seeing these crazy things online. You know, all these companies are trying these new things, these new potato chips, these new drinks, these new snacks. But you were like, I don't want to try a snack.
You didn't say that. Well, a drink is not a snack. A
snack. I think.
What was the thing you said you wanted to?
Kristen, that I'm gonna bring.
Okay, we're starting it next week.
Next week, I'm bringing you a snack or a drink or something that's in the news that, you know, is making some waves.
The reason I said no to this because the first thing that suggested was an Oreo flavored Coke.
Yes.
I'm like, that's disgusting. You want to drink that?
That's a thing right now. They came out with Oreo flavor, and I think they have Coke flavored Oreos.
Now, I would rather have a Coke flavored Oreo than drink an Oreo flavored Coke.
Well, Casey, you are going to get to do both next week on Off Air.
I'm going to get whatever you put on this table here. It's like I have a choice. She's going to bring it in here. I'm not going to have a choice.
Yes, I'm going to bring in some snacks.
If I wrote down a note of what I wanted, she would take it and throw it over in the garbage can.
We're going to try it, and then, you know, we'll tell the people what they want to know, if it's worth it or not.
All righty. I guess we're going to have a new segment next week here on Off Air.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to put on
the
the pounds
first.
And the sugar. Enjoy the race week. We'll see you next week.